Everybody, Jimmy Smith doing my post-fight breakdown for UFC on ESPN 7, Overeem versus Rozenstruik. My picks were pretty good for this one. I'm going to go over everything I picked, what I got right, what I got wrong, kind of drive by the card. And then we'll talk about the main event that I'll really dive into. There are some themes, a lot of combat sports last weekend. There are some themes I want to talk about, or one specific theme, that seem to be just a constant this weekend in combat sports, which is adjustments and the inability to adjust. We saw that with Joshua versus Ruiz. The adjustment I'm talking about is Anthony Joshua didn't use the jab effectively in the first fight against Ruiz Jr., went back to the gym, improved the jab, improved his reach, and fought better the second time. And Andy Ruiz Jr. seemed to have no answer for a fairly basic strategic and tactical adjustment. When it comes to rematches, and I never had a rematch in MMA, I had a couple in jiu-jitsu. And I coached guys for rematches in jiu-jitsu. And they would say things like, I triangled this guy in 10 seconds last time. And I say, yeah, what do you think he's been thinking about for the last 6 months since then? How to get out of a triangle. He went back to the gym and was pissed and learned something. And you have to prepare for a better version of that guy. And the expression that holds true a lot of the time, unfortunately, is winners fight the same fight twice. They don't have any reason to go back and change anything. Now, Ruiz Jr. looked even worse than I thought he would look. The weigh-in really changed my opinion of him. I would have picked him to win the fight, and then the weigh-in, I was like, he's going to lose. He just didn't look prepared to me. But beyond physically, he seemed tactically unprepared for the fact that Joshua would go back and improve his jab, which is the simplest tool in boxing. And it can be difficult to get around, but not impossible. And it seemed like he made no adjustments for that. In this UFC, I saw people having trouble with adjustments. So, Cody Stamann versus Song Yadong. I picked Song Yadong, and it looked like Yadong was going to win this one. But he cost himself with an illegal knee, cost him a point, and he ended up with a draw. Now, once again, he's winning the first two rounds, and then Cody Stamann comes back and owns him on the ground in the third round. Whenever you have success in a particular area or location or with a particular technique, and this is throughout sports, you have to be prepared for your opponent to make an adjustment. If I have a guy who's owning somebody on the feet for 2 rounds, I'm going to say, look, round 3, he's going to come out and shoot. He's going to make this about the ground. He doesn't want to get beat up the whole time. The same offensive formation doesn't work against Bill Belichick. I hate Bill Belichick and the Patriots, but I got to use it. Doesn't work against him for 4 quarters. He makes adjustments, and you got to change your game around. And once again, Yadong didn't seem prepared for that third round game change. Now, Cody Staman's no joke, especially with the takedown, the ground and pound, and all that stuff. And he would have won without losing the point for the knee. But I thought Song Yadong would win that fight. It ended up being a draw. Tough, okay? Aspen Ladd, Yana Kunitzkaya. This was the only one I got flat out wrong. I thought Aspen Ladd would have kind of a mental letdown after the first loss of her career. A controversial loss with the TKO, but a tough one psychologically. She got drilled early, her first main event, dropped, and it was over. It's hard to bounce back from that. To her credit, she did. And she was aggressive, came at Yana Kunitzkaya, who I think is a well-rounded, excellent pro. I think she's a great fighter. Not great, good, solid, very good. And Aspen Ladd tore her up in that third round. Just went out aggressive, got the pep talk from her coaches, and drilled her. So it wasn't so much tactical adjustments as mentally. She bounced back really big from a huge loss, and that's great. Whenever I see a fighter do that, and I've always thought in MMA, you should have your first loss within your first 10 fights. I really believe that. If I have a fighter who's wants to make a career out of it, I want to see them lose in their first 10 fights. I know that sounds weird, that I'd want to see my fighter lose, or at least be really tested in the first 10 fights at some point, because it starts becoming kind of a weight on you. I've heard a lot of fighters talk about this. Oh man, I was afraid. You start fighting to not lose. Being undefeated is a big deal. You got to let go of that. You're going to lose, come back, fight stronger. Aspen Ladd came back big in the Kunitzkaya fight against a very skilled opponent. So that's the only one I got flat out wrong, and I'm totally okay with that. Aspen Ladd, hey, congratulations to you. Great bounce back. Real aggression, great finishing power in a division where it's not easy to get a finish. Ben Rothwell, Stefan Struve. You heard me be critical of Stefan Struve, and I was right. Now, the X factor here were the low blows. 2 really bad low blows. Had to take about 10 minutes out of the fight for both of them because he took the full 5, I think, in both of them. Ben Rothwell did have an interesting point today, which normally I would call bullshit on, but I got it. He said, look, against a normal-sized opponent, those are illegal kicks. Like, you have to really adjust your kicks. If you're used to throwing kicks to the body, for example, that's his nuts. There you go. So you have to suddenly change. Like, man, I can't hit there. And if you're used to throwing body kicks at someone your height, man, suddenly that's a groin shot. Against Stefan Struve, that's what happened. So was it a factor in the fight? Yes. But he took the full time. I don't know what else he could have done other than opt out of the fight, which he could have. But once again, it was that tendency Stefan Struve has to let kind of people into his house, right? When you teach fighting, you kind of say, look, this is your house. This is your, inside your hands is letting someone into your living room uninvited. You can't ever do that. You got to prevent that. And Stefan Struve seems to invite that kind of fight from just about everyone. And Ben Rothwell, good heavyweight, not great. If you saw in the breakdown, he's got some great wins over some big names, but was never the factor in the heavyweight division I thought he would be, especially after he submitted Josh Barnett. That was huge. But 3 losses in a row, didn't capitalize on that, and it looked like he was going to be an okay heavyweight. Now, he gets a win here, which is important. It's good for him, but will he be a factor in the heavyweight division? Maybe. We'll take a couple more good ones. But once Ben Rothwell gets inside, he's a very good medium and short-range puncher. He has good power on the inside. And if you're Stefan Struve, you use that height, use that range, keep him outside all day, pretty much like Joshua Ruiz Jr. And Stefan Struve never does that. And he didn't do it again, and it led to another knockout loss. So Stefan Struve, not doing great in the UFC. Ben Rothwell back on track. Will he be a factor in the heavyweight division? He's in the one division where it wouldn't take many to get back in it, but might be a little too late at his age with what he's been through. So good win for him, though, against Stefan Struve. I picked that one as well. Marina Rodriguez, Cynthia Calvillo. Of course, Calvillo not making weight, which I think is a significant factor in this fight. But speaking of adjustments, this is the second draw of Marina Rodriguez's career. I was there for the first one against Ronda Marcos. And this one worked the same as that fight, except the other way around. In terms of, when she fought Ronda Marcos came out and owned her on the ground in the first round. Then she came back and won the last 2 rounds and got a draw. But it was a 10-8 first round, if I remember correctly. This one was the other way around. She was beating Calvillo for the first 2 rounds, and then Calvillo got on top of her and owned her on the ground, almost got a finish, and ended up being a draw. This was a tactical camp type of adjustment. She got beaten the same way she got beat against Ronda Marcos. On the ground, top-heavy pressure, and she didn't have a way to deal with it. So it's one of those things where, you have to understand that's your Achilles heel, and you got to really, really work on that, especially if you're owning somebody in kickboxing in the first 2 rounds. They're going to flip the switch, try something different. Now, a lot of people are saying, look, the extra 4 pounds, it doesn't mean a whole lot. The extra 4 pounds means she didn't go through a lot of the cutting someone would do in the last week or so. It leads to a lot more than 4 pounds on fight night. It really does. It's hard to bounce back and rehydrate. You can get something like 85% back or something. But for Cynthia Calvillo, not having to do that, she can get back a lot more. And so was she heavier? Yes. Can she put more pressure? Yes. Do you feel it in a fight on the ground? For sure. For sure. I know the difference. When someone didn't have to cut weight like I did and they were able to miss by 4 pounds, they feel way different. Way different. If they don't seem naturally that bigger, you do really feel it on the ground. Was it the difference maker? Who the hell knows? But on one side, Marina Rodriguez wasn't able to, in between those 2 fights, were another draw. She suffered the same fate she did in her first draw. Owned on the ground, didn't have the ability to get out from bad position. Had she cleaned that up a little bit, but clearly she needs more work on that. Now, fortunately, she got a draw, so it's not a loss. Calvillo, make weight or move up. Straight up. That's the only solution at this point for Calvillo. She's a talented fighter. I like her a lot. Hey, make weight or move up. The idea that the UFC is going to put juice behind you and push you when you can't make weight, it's tough. It's tough. I've said it many times before. It's the equivalent of showing up to work on time. You're not going to get promoted not showing up to work on time. And as far as the professionalism of fighting, you got to make weight. So, on to the main event. Rozenstruik versus Alistair Overeem. A lot of angles to this fight. Okay, when I did the pre-fight breakdown, Alistair Overeem, one of the most skilled and talented heavyweights in MMA history. I really believe this in terms of what he can do, his level at certain things, mostly his stand-up striking and his submission game. You don't usually see that both together in heavyweight. They have one or the other. They're not as mobile. They're not as versatile, especially on the feet. Alistair Overeem kind of had it all, but he would make decisions in fights that would just leave you face-palming. Like these arrogant, hands-dropping, nobody can hurt me kind of physical moves that would cost him the fight. That he might be winning. I think he's lots of fighters he had no business losing to because he would make bad decisions. The irony of this fight is he made good decisions for 24 minutes. Now, I've read comments online about Overeem that were like, I miss horse meat Overeem. I miss that destroyer who went in and finished guys because that guy was not there against Rozenstruik. Straight up. He was not there. This was a smart, tactical Alistair Overeem. I didn't see any shot he threw particularly hurting Rozenstruik. He didn't even seem to try to hurt him that much. It was ticky-tack, outside, controlling range, getting the takedown when he needed it, which I think he had the biggest advantage on the ground. Rozenstruik, a hard puncher. But Overeem had the superior jiu-jitsu, and it showed, and better takedown. He fought a really smart fight and never really seemed that interested in hurting Rozenstruik. He was trying to win minutes and win rounds, not necessarily win the fight. Not pushing hard to finish at any one point. Was that smart? Yes. If I were his coaches, with the history he's been through recently, that's how I would have trained. Don't let this heavy hitter land that big punch and finish you. Play it safe. Work the outside. Work your jab. Fought a lot from southpaw. Confuse the guy. Win rounds. Win the fight. Fight like a veteran, which is what he did till the last minute of the fight. Now, that final punch. There are a couple angles here. Number one is you are winning the fight. You are way ahead for that last 10 seconds. I don't want you in punching range of this dude. Especially Overeem has such great feet. Good push kicks. Great leg kicks. Dance and kick and keep this guy at a distance and don't let him punch you for at least the last half of the round, especially the last 10 seconds. I know fans boo that a lot, and I've seen it in wrestling. I've seen it in jiu-jitsu. Or somebody dance in the last 10 seconds of a fight they're ahead. You know, people don't like it. But, hey, too bad. He already fought a boring fight. It wasn't a particularly exciting fight. You know, he fought a good fight. It wasn't bad. It was just, you're already fighting to win minutes and win rounds. So if you're dancing around the last 10 seconds and the fans get upset, okay, you weren't exactly painting the canvas with his blood anyway. Just take the last 10 seconds off and get your win. He gets smashed in the mouth. Everybody's seeing the pictures of his lip. The stoppage itself. I understand if you're an Overeem fan and you thought, look, in a fight he's winning, do you let him take those few punches on the ground? Because he hit the ground dazed but there. And Rozenstruik steps forward and Dan Miragliotta waves it off. Of course, his lip looked like he got hit with a machete, but that wasn't the reason for the fight stoppage. And I think that's important to keep in mind. It was a TKO. They did not call in the doctor to look at the cut. Now, so Dan Miragliotta, I don't think saw, and please let me know if I'm wrong, I haven't seen the interviews or anything, saw how bad the lip was. He just saw him get blasted, he falls down, and then they stop the fight with 4 seconds left. Did he deserve to at least have the opportunity to defend himself for those last 4 seconds? I get fans who think he did. Do I think it was a good stoppage? Pretty good. Pretty good. He clearly got blasted. I mean, I've seen stoppages for less, let me put it that way. But in a fight he's winning, a 25-minute main event, and there are 4 seconds left, does he have the right to at least, and if he had taken one or two more, it's over, even if there's 1 second left. But the idea that he wasn't really given the opportunity to get his hands up and defend himself on the ground for those 4 seconds, regardless of the lip injury, I see the fans' argument for that one. And please let me know what you guys think. I'm kind of in the middle about it. I thought it was definitely stoppable, but I see the people who was like, God, man, 4 seconds left? Doesn't he have the right to at least put his hands up and maybe defend himself a little bit? And then you look at the lip, but once again, the doctor was not called in to look at the lip. It was not a doctor stoppage. It was a referee TKO. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. Where do they go moving forward? The problem is, much like I think Ben Rothwell, this loss by Alistair Overeem, he's having trouble with pretty basic hard punchers. And Francis Ngannou, I kind of put on a different level. That guy punches like scary hard. Even if you put him on another level, this was a guy, Rozenstruik, who didn't do that much that really separates him from the pack as far as heavyweights go. He's a hard hitter, but heavyweight division is full of hard hitters. If you want to be a contender in the UFC, in the heavyweight division, I want to see something that sets you aside from all the walk forward and throw big punches guys. Okay? And if you look at the elite, the guys who have won titles and who have fought 4 titles, they usually have something that sets them apart from the best. I'm sorry, from the rest. Okay? So for Alistair Overeem, was his versatility. Most heavyweights can't do everything Alistair Overeem can do, especially on the feet. Knees, elbows, punches, great combinations. He can do all of it. Most heavyweights usually aren't that well-rounded. Fabricio Verdum, obviously world-class jiu-jitsu. That's pretty rare in the heavyweight division. Stipe, again, well-rounded. Not just a hard puncher, but an excellent wrestler as well, and really high fight IQ. I don't see anything that separates Rozenstruik that much. Overeem, even where he is in his career, you got to find a way around these kind of guys. You have to be able to deal with just hey, I come forward and I hit hard. If you can't deal with those, what are you? You're another heavyweight struggling for a spot in the division. Is his career over? No. I mean, he'll still fight and maybe have entertaining fights. I didn't see a guy who's going to fight for a title again. I didn't see that. Not only did he lose, that killer instinct wasn't there. And I think that was a tactical choice. I don't think it can't be there again if he really went for it. But this guy's had a lot of really bad knockout losses. And I think maybe he's trying to play it safe. And it almost worked in this fight if he could have stayed on his feet another 10 seconds. But, I don't see that X factor that makes the UFC brass go, got to see Overeem fight for a title, man. That guy is video gold. Got to see him. No, I mean, he fought smart. And so it was kind of a tactical, not super exciting fight. And he lost to a guy who didn't have a ton of tools. So not a great performance by Overeem, and I think this eliminates him from that elite contender status. I don't think he has that. Rozenstruik can move forward. Is he on the short list for a title shot? Sure, I would say maybe one more big name to show that he can handle somebody else. And remember, this is a fight he was losing for the majority of the fight, and then came back in the last 10 seconds. So there are still some question marks about him. We've seen a lot of fighters who are, boy, I knock guys out, run into the wrong fighter, and it just derails their career. We've yet to see that with him, but I would say one more before he's a legit title contender. And this is a division with a lot of old talent that's kind of getting out of the way. They've had titles or fought for titles, and we need new blood. So Rozenstruik could definitely be part of that breed. I'd like to see him fight one more, but for Overeem, it's a big step down because you got to be able to deal with these guys who, hey, I hit hard. Got to deal with those because that's what the division is full of, and you just separate yourself from that pack. And right now, I see Overeem as solidly in that pack for right now. So appreciate you guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll be talking again before the next one.